after years of also flipping houses and such, I was sick of not making any money when I flipped. I think it was maybe a year and a half ago. Robert and I had a mobile home park together, and we were thinking about moving a brand new mobile home in there to rent out. And that's when it kind of hit me. I was like, dude, why don't we just go get brand new double wides and put them on land, make them FHA compliant, and sell them on the market? It'll be kind of short-term revenue, just like flipping houses would be. And hopefully it's less headache because we already know the whole process start to finish of how to do mobile homes. The one thing that Robert and I did not know at that time was how to develop land. I had never done it before, and I don't know that Robert had ever done it before. But we really just took our skill set from mobile home parks, applied it to this, and fell in love with it ever since.
I'm just like overwhelmed, all the people popping in here, and it keeps jinging in my ear. So, Robert, Chris, I'm gonna mute out for a second. What's y'all's combined mobile home parks that at this point?
It's somewhere in the 30s, I think, or upper 20s. I would like to take a minute so everyone can appreciate when I see Brent in front of this microphone standing up, I always think he's about to sing me a song. And I just admire that.
I
And
will if
such
you'd
a
like. I'm a performer, so whatever it takes to get the job done.
yeah, we'll wait until you're not sick.
No, it doesn't matter. It's gonna sound terrible no matter what. It doesn't matter.
And yeah, Robert and I have been doing mobile home parks for 4 or 5 years now. I've been scooping them up, and at first, man, it was a challenge. I mean, just all the intricacies to moving mobile homes, the setup, the permits, dealing with the counties, the cities. It was a whole different skill set that I didn't have. And it was the second property I ever bought. I first bought a duplex and I was house hacking it. And then the second thing I bought was a 9 pad mobile home park, and it was just vacant lots. It didn't have any houses on it. And at first I was like, man, I guess I'll just rent the lots out. I don't have any money, so I can't really buy houses, but maybe I can just rent the lots out and people will move their homes out there. And boy, was I wrong. It took like a year and a half before I got my first tenant. And what I realized was it's expensive to move a house. It costs $5,000 plus, depending on where you are and what kind of house you're moving. And the people moving into the park don't have 5 grand to move their house. So a lot of learning lessons came with that, and that really led into us doing the land home packages as that skill set of moving mobile homes, setting them up, installing them, dealing with the county and city. It was all the same process that we learned with our mobile home parks. It's just applying it in a different way. And after years of also flipping houses and such, I was sick of not making any money when I flipped. And so I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, Robert and I had a mobile home park together, and we were thinking about moving a brand new mobile home in there to rent out. And that's when it kind of hit me. I was like, dude, why don't we just go get brand new double wides and put them on land, make them FHA compliant, and sell them on the market? It'll be kind of short-term revenue, just like flipping houses would be. And hopefully it's less headache because we already know the whole process start to finish of how to do mobile homes. And that kind of conceived the idea. The one thing that Robert and I did not know at that time was how to develop land. I had never done it before, and I don't know that Robert had ever done it before. So we had plenty of challenges and fumbles while learning how to deal with the land part of it. But we really just took our skill set from mobile home parks, applied it to this, and fell in love with it ever since.
I can see it. I every time I talk to you guys, I see the passion, I hear the passion, and I see the numbers that you're showing me on these deals. What are you guys doing? 7 right now? Is that how many you're doing in the
We have
process of?
we have 20 something lots right now total that need homes. I think we have Robert, maybe 5, 7 homes that have been delivered that we're in the process of setting up right now, waiting on the other homes to
That's right.
arrive.
And what I love about tapping into you guys, and I am by no means the expert on this. I've done a few of them. Some of my biggest profits out in Colorado were manufactured homes. Putting a manufactured home. We did a modular. Me and Alfredo Elias split $97,000 on a modular placement. And by the way, we didn't have the discount that you and Robert have taught me how to do with the mobile home dealer. So I see the passion. I hear the passion. I see the numbers you guys are doing, and it's just incredible. And what's I was getting at is tapping into you guys is you've already made all the mistakes. I'm good at sourcing land. I'm very good at sourcing land. We'll talk about that, how to source land for these during this presentation day, this live training. But you guys have seen all the mistakes. Like Robert was telling me one today that, or yesterday, that you guys are listing is like, should we wait for the power to come on or should we not? Little things like that to where you've built these checklists to where like we don't have to like someone starting out in this doesn't have to deal with those little intricacies. Like I put over $5,000 worth of porches on the a mobile home package that I did, and we had to rip it all out and throw it in the dumpster because we attached it to the actual
Attach it to the
building
house.
structure. Huge mistake. $5,000 right there down the drain. Thank God there was a bunch of profit in the deal to eat that mistake, that margin of safety. But we did it. But let's go ahead and get started, Robert. You want to pull up the presentation, or before we get started, did we miss anything, Robert? I know you kind of had a little structure on how you wanted to do this.
No, you're spot on. I think we're good. We can kick it off, and I think we'll touch on all the different items as we go through here.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. Don't worry about letting people in if you're talking. Me or Chris or whoever's not talking can let people in.
Cool. All right. So look, I'm super excited, Brent. Appreciate the opportunity and to come here today, share a bit of learnings that we've had in developing land home packages across the upstate of South Carolina, and really happy to share that knowledge with y'all today and go through all the specific details. Like Brent said, happy to answer any questions as we touch on it, and make sure you have all the information you need to be successful. But let's jump in real quick with just some introductions. I think I know a lot of you on the call, but there's a lot of people I don't know. I'm Robert, and my background and my story is I started out my career in event marketing, doing large-scale marketing events for Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, the Olympics, all across the country and the world. And about 6 years ago, I said, hey, I've had enough of it. I'd really like to have a passion for real estate and want to do more in real estate. I had bought some rental properties throughout the years, but started doing it intentionally, really with a focus on affordable housing. And, Brent talks about the passion that we have. And, of course, we all like to make money, but one of my passions is really doing affordable housing, and started with mobile home parks. And like Chris mentioned, as we were doing mobile home parks, we had to get our dealer's license to buy the mobile homes that we wanted to buy. And we said, well, shoot, if we got a dealer's license and we could buy directly from the manufacturers, we should look at how we can take advantage of this, and started to do land home packages, and have been doing those. And so really, over the last 6 years have focused on mobile home parks. And I personally own about 26 mobile home parks, all in South Carolina. Small and mid-sized mobile home parks, and also land home packages. And so that's my background. Chris, you want to touch on yours?
Man, so my story is not as sexy as yours, but I went to college and graduated. Well, I didn't graduate, I dropped out really. 2020, I want to say,
Don't lie, they kicked you out.
2019.
They kicked you out.
Well, funny enough, a lot of people don't necessarily know this, but I was actually hooked on drugs and ended up getting arrested. After I got bailed out of jail, I was down in Atlanta going to school. My mom lived up in South Carolina. She said, "We're going to get you out of this mess. Just move up here." So I was 19 or 20 years old, living in my mom's basement, watching all my friends in college have fun, while I had no money. I dropped out of school and I had no job. So that was 2018. I was 20, so I'm 26 now. And for the first year or so, I was trying to get my life back together. Went and got a part-time job and was kind of working construction with a guy that was flipping houses. Did that for a couple of months and realized I didn't want to be a day laborer. I didn't like that. So I went and got a part-time job at this place called Fastenal, which sold like construction, industrial supplies. And while I was there, I was like, man, I want to do something on my own. I want to become more. If I'm going to be stuck at home and not having fun, I might as well make something out of it. And ended up listening to this podcast called The Sweaty Startup, which was basically about service-based businesses. I started a pressure washing company, and long story short, I was always washing this guy's apartment buildings. And one day I was sitting in his office, like, man, what do you want to do when you go older? You're a young guy, like, what's your goal? And at that time, the biggest I could think is I was like, man, I want to make 100 grand a year. And he was like, dude, you're going to be a tired boy doing that pressure washing. That's a lot of houses to wash. And he kind of planted the seed of real estate. And he encouraged me to go get licensed. Um, and he kind of would sit down with me in his office and he would show me how he flips houses, what the numbers are, how he kind of looks at deals. And long story short, he planted the seed. I got licensed, found out I hated the retail side of real estate, hated being a realtor. Got into wholesaling, was flipping houses, buying rentals. I think today I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 150, 170 rentals. Um, I flipped probably 50 to 75 houses and wholesaled hundreds of deals. And really just kind of fumbled my way into it. Like I was saying earlier, the second thing I ever bought was a mobile home park. I didn't have any money. I didn't know what I was doing. And anyway, so yeah, it's been a ride. My story's not as sexy as Robert's, but I'm glad to be here. Brent, you can share your background now.
No, I love it. That's amazing. So, I mean, gosh, I can't tell you. I mean, you're in good company. I'll just leave it at that. Guys, a lot of you know me. I'm not going to get too much of my background. I've done over 350 plus land deals. I hate rental properties, but I really love the fact of just maximizing the dollars we can make on a piece of land, whether it be through a mobile home park or putting a simple manufactured home on it. So let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes and just start diving in.
Yeah, so what are land home packages? Basically, what we're referring to is we're out here buying land and we're putting brand new mobile homes on it. Oftentimes, we're making it FHA compliant. What you'll find at these price points, in our market at least, we're selling them for 200 to 250 per house. Most of those buyers are FHA buyers. So there's a whole different process to making a mobile home FHA compliant. But we have a dealer's license, a mobile home dealer's license. Those are state licenses. Every state is completely different. Some don't require it, some do. In South Carolina, it's a complete pain in the ass to get. We had to take a class, do a test, and then submit financial statements. We had to have like $150,000 in the bank liquid and prove it to them. All kinds of crazy requirements. But every state is different. South Carolina is one of the harder states to get it in. I know my brother is in Georgia. He got his, and it was just a money grab there. I think he just had to pay 400 or 500 bucks, and that's all he had to do to get the license. So, highly recommend that you get your dealer's license, or at least look at your state and see what's required, if it's even required at all. And in order to do that, you can just, South Carolina manufactured home dealer's license, or insert your state, and something will come up with the government site. But that's what we're doing. We're just acquiring land, putting new houses on it, setting them up, and selling them off.
So,
Right
hey,
now,
that
go ahead,
breaks
brother.
me. I hope you don't mind asking the question already. The reason why we want these to be FHA compliant, which I didn't do that with any of mine. Um, I don't know if I had to in Colorado, the modular, and I think it was a FHA buyer. Anyhow, doesn't matter. Does that get us more money? Is that why the FHA compliant? Because there's more FHA buyers out there?
Well, modular is different. So modular is deemed a stick-built house in a lot of ways. So those is a completely different game. The reason that we do mobile homes FHA compliant is most buyers at our price point are getting FHA loans. It's not very often that someone's getting a conventional loan and coming to buy one of these. It happens. In fact, we just sold one a month or so ago, and it was in all cash, which I didn't think would ever happen. So it's not required if someone is doing a conventional loan or is buying it in cash, but we found that the bulk of our buyers are FHA buyers, and so we just set them up and make them FHA compliant for that reason. But you don't necessarily have to unless you have an FHA buyer.
No, it makes sense. Feed the majority, feed the masses. The more buyers you have in the pool, the higher you're going to get for your product.
George, yes, you can owner finance and be the bank. we do plenty of that as well. Not with brand new ones, just because your all-in cost for a brand new one is a lot higher. But we can touch on that in the Q&A section if you want to discuss that. Right now, we've been absolutely crushing it with these. We really believe now is a really solid time to get into this. As everyone in this call knows, affordable housing is a problem everywhere. It doesn't matter what market you're in, it's probably an issue. And we are always the most affordable product on the market, and we're one of the best looking products on the market. And you'll see in a couple slides, we'll show some of the ones we've done. And they look really, really nice. So we have no problem selling them. They're flying off the shelves because it's such a good product at such a good price. And we feel good with them no matter really what the market's doing. I think affordable housing is always an issue, whether the market's strong or whether it's softening, kind of like we're seeing right now. But I'll touch on that a little bit in a minute. Robbie, you can get the next slide. There's really three main reasons why we do this. The closest thing to this is probably flipping houses in terms of short-term money. But we feel these are a lot safer. One, with you being the most affordable product on the market, your all-in cost per home is a lot less usually than if you were flipping a house. So for us in our market, with what we're paying for land, our all-in cost is usually in the neighborhood of about 150,000. That's between the house, the land, the land development, the septic tank, sewer tap, whatever, all that, all included. At that price point, of course, you're borrowing less money, which naturally will reduce your risk, but also it opens you up to other exit strategies. So I know some guys that are flipping $300,000-$400,000 houses, and if they're unable to sell their house, they're kind of in a bind. They can't really rent that in cash flow. If they've got to go refinance at an 8% rate, you're not going to cash flow on your $300,000-$400,000 house. But with these land homes, if you're refinancing out 150,000, there's plenty of room there that you could rent it, or George, what you were asking earlier, owner financing it, which we do plenty of that. So there's multiple exit strategies, which also makes me feel good about doing these. You're at the best price point, the 200,000, 250, 150,000 all in between buying the house, paying for the land, setting the home up. That's all cost for the home. Just to answer that question. So yeah, you have multiple options and you have a lot more flexibility with these than you would with other asset classes, which is why we love them. And of course, the price point is the lowest price thing on the market, which is still selling very quickly in our market. That's 200 to 250. In your market, it might be a little higher, or a little lower. It just depends. And then simplicity. When I was flipping houses, I went through so many different issues because of surprises or things I didn't expect I would have to do. You know, you rip up the carpets and you realize, damn, the subfloor is all rotted out. Now we've got to go in and replace that throughout the house. Or you open up a wall and you see that the wiring is outdated and the whole house needs to be rewired. So many things would pop up that you didn't foresee. And it makes it harder to streamline a house flipping business because of all these unforeseen things that'll pop up. With land home packages, it's the same thing every single time. The only variation you're going to have is in the land development. Maybe some lots are a little bit more steep than others, so you've got to bring in more fill dirt, or one lot needs to be cleared and the others that you did don't have to be cleared. There's some variation, but generally speaking, it's the same thing every time. It's the same house. You're doing the same setup. You're working with the same contractors that are connecting your utilities, putting your HVAC unit on there, etc. So the whole process is much easier to streamline because you know what it is going into it every time. And then, of course, a higher resale value. People want brand new homes. That's a very appealing thing. And so when you're able to provide a brand new house at the price points we're selling them for, you can usually get more than someone that's renovating an existing double wide and flipping it. So you can get a slightly higher sales price, just like you would with a new construction house compared to a renovated house. Same concept, but you're able to get a little bit more money because it's brand new.
I mean, there's a reason why people, won't buy a used vehicle. They don't want someone else's problems. They want that new car smell, that new mobile home smell, that new carpet smell, that new paint, that new construction smell. These are very appealing to many of the senses when your buyers are looking at these and just looking at the product. They are very nice. They've come a long way.
Oh, 100%. It's not what you think of when you think of a mobile home. I mean, most people think of the 1970s one with the shag carpets in it, and it's not like that at all, which you guys will see here in a minute. Um, but comparing it to house flipping, deal search is a huge part of it. When you're flipping houses, you're competing with every wholesaler and everyone and their mom wants to flip houses. They all want to be the person on HGTV that shows you the old kitchen and now it's bright and white with granite everywhere. Everyone wants to do that. But land is not the same. Land, sorry to offend you, Brent, is kind of boring. And not many people have a desire to get into that. So there's less people competing for land deals. On top of that, from the seller perspective, when you're marketing for off-market houses, a lot of times sellers will have some sort of emotional attachment to it. Maybe it was their mom's house, or maybe they've owned it for 20 years and it was the first house they ever bought and they've been renting it. Usually there's some sort of emotional attachment to it. Whereas with land, it's like, yeah, I bought that 10 years ago. I was thinking of building a house and just never did. Now I'm only paying property taxes every year on it. It doesn't serve me. So usually people are more likely to just sell a vacant piece of land they have compared to a house because they also have less options with it. You know, you can rent a house out, you can go renovate the house and sell it for more. Whereas with land, it takes a whole skill set to develop it and build a house there or do something with it to really turn a profit on it. Um, so finding land deals is significantly easier, we found, which in turn saves you money on marketing costs if you're doing direct to seller marketing. You can even find a lot of land deals on the market for what we do because people don't always know its worth. It's harder to value land because there's
You
so
just
many more
hit,
intricacies.
you just like that. I hope no one misses that. That's something we got to say again. We can find deals that are on market for these mobile home packages, and I can attest to that because I went and searched an area called Lake Placid, Florida, as soon as we started talking about this a few months ago, and found a land deal right on the MLS. I'm paying under $10,000 for it, and we can plug a mobile home into it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, and that's the thing is we can pay retail prices for land because of what we're doing with it. I can't pay a retail house, price for a house because I wouldn't make any money flipping it then. So it opens the door to getting more deals with land. Um, and then to that point with the profit section of it, like I was just saying, dude, I've lost so much money on houses. I can't. I've made plenty from flipping them, but I've lost a lot too because of things I didn't see. I've had a couple where the whole subfloor was eaten up with termites, and I didn't realize it, and I lost 30 or $40,000. There's so many unforeseen issues that pop up, and also contractors. You know, it's hard to lock down a contractor and say, "Hey, here's a job, flip this house for me. You'll be here for 6 months or whatever." They're going to get sidetracked, go off on other houses, other projects, and next thing you know, a year later, your house is just now getting complete. I've had that happen probably 4 or 5 times where it took over a year just to renovate the house, just because the guy got sidetracked and all sorts of different things. Whereas with land home, um, we're on average making anywhere from 35 to 45,000 on each deal. Now that's our market. Robert knows a couple guys in a different part of South Carolina that's making, I think, what, 50 to 75 per house. Brent, to your point, I think you
Yep.
said you made what, 96 or something. I mean, depending on your market, this will vary. But I don't think we've ever made less than 30,000 on one of these because it's the same thing every time. Our costs are fixed. We know what we're getting into when we get into the deal versus flipping houses. You never know what you're walking into. So what I found with flipping houses is it always costs more than you think it's going to cost. It'll take longer than you think it'll take, and you'll never make as much money on it as you think you're going to make. And thankfully, we haven't had that issue with land home. Typically with our land home, if you close on a lot today, what we're seeing right now, the houses will deliver between 30 to 60 days from now. So it would be beginning of February that your house would be delivered. After the house is delivered, it's about 30 to 45 days to have it completely set up and on the market. So usually start to finish buying the land today, 3 months from now, you'll be on the market. And like I was just saying with flipping houses, it's a question mark. You never know what you're going to get there. So we love the consistency of it and it being the same thing every time. I can't stress that enough. It makes it so much simpler. Aaron, to answer your question, do we start the land development as soon as you order the mobile home? Robert will get into that in a couple of slides. He'll show you our whole process of what we do before we close on the land, and then right after closing, and what we do after the house is there versus what we do before the house is there. So Robert will jump into that for you. Um, as great as these are, don't get me wrong, there's definitely some challenges with them. And Robert and I had to fumble through a lot of those. The first one really being education. There's not really anyone that I'm aware of on the internet talking about this. If you wanted to wholesale houses or you wanted to flip houses, there's so many resources that you can tap into to go learn about how to do that and avoid some of the mistakes. Whereas with this, there's no one really discussing it. So Robert and I really kind of had to figure this process out ourselves in a lot of ways. And man, we made some mistakes. I mean, I remember one deal, to touch on the number three here, zoning issues. We bought this lot with the guy we partnered on the deal with him. We bought it, moved our house out there. When our house gets there, the neighbor all of a sudden starts suing us, and our partner was the one that owned the land. He was on the title because he brought the money, and he called me one day. I was headed out of town. He called me and said, man, I just got a letter that our neighbor's suing us. What's going on? Long story short, this lot that we had was not in a neighborhood, but right behind us was a neighborhood. When they developed that neighborhood, 5 lots on the street that we were on were part of that HOA that was created back in the 70s. And we had no idea. The attorney completely missed it. We missed it. No one thought about it. We were being sued because we were violating the HOA and the neighborhood covenants. So we had no idea to even look for those things. And we ended up losing, I don't know, 10 or $15,000. We had to do a title insurance claim on that land. So we got back the money that we paid for the land, which was like 25,000 we paid for the lot, I think it was. We got 25,000 back, but we had already run some water lines, we had cleared the land already, we had done some grading, and then we had to pay to move that house to a different lot we had because we couldn't use that lot that we had bought. So it was a complete nightmare. And ultimately, we did fine on it once we moved it to the new lot. But things like that we just didn't even think of, and no one on the internet or books or anything like that are discussing those things when it comes to mobile homes. So we didn't even know what to look for. So from now on, we always tell the attorney what we're doing with that land so they can double check any deed restrictions, neighborhood covenants, anything like that that could potentially mess us up. It's not just the county or city zoning. It's also coming down to deed restrictions and neighborhood covenants. Um, Funding deals can sometimes be a challenge. If you're going to a bank to do these, a lot of banks don't like land development. A lot of them won't fund that. And most banks don't like mobile homes. So put the two together, and you can imagine how many banks like to fund those deals, developing land for mobile homes. Not too many. But what we've found is a lot of local banks are willing to work with you. So we work with local banks, community kind of banks. If you go put your deposits there, that's usually what they want. They want you to be a customer with them. If you move your banking to them, usually they'll kind of open the floodgates a little bit and be willing to be pretty flexible with you and willing to fund deals like this. Same goes for hard money. A lot of hard money lending companies, they might have a new construction line that they would do for houses, stick built houses, but usually they don't have one for mobile homes. We were grateful to get plugged in with one that we use for hard money that will fund these. And they're a little bit expensive, but they'll fund 100% of it. We'd be happy to connect you guys with them as well. They've been great for us. And then finally, of course, private lenders. Even those can be a little iffy to get for this. Some of them only do houses, they're not familiar with land. And then, of course, a lot of them aren't familiar with mobile homes. So just like with the bank, you combine the two, and some of them might get a little skittish. And it can also get a little weird because when you buy the house, you have to pay for the house usually a week or two before it even delivers. So the private lender is putting up their money a week or two before the house is even there. They don't have collateral necessarily because the house doesn't even exist yet. So you can kind of work through it with a lot of these. There's plenty of sources out there that'll fund these, but Robert and I had a really hard time at first trying to figure out how to actually fund these deals because it's something that's just completely different than what most people are getting loans for. Um, and then, of course, the knowledge for developing land. That's a whole different skill set. Robert and I did not know that when we started. So we had to kind of fumble through it, make all kinds of different mistakes, but putting in water lines, septic tanks, clearing land, grading it, bringing in fill dirt, all those things that unless you've done it before, you really don't know what to do. So we had a lot of challenges with that. And thankfully, I think we're proficient enough in it now that we don't really have any issues with it. But it was certainly a challenge at first. And then finally, of course, the dealer's license, like I was touching on before, for those that have joined since I was talking about that, highly, highly recommend that you, after this, if you're interested in doing these, search in your state, Michigan manufactured home dealer's license or South Carolina manufactured home dealer's license. Search that. Usually a government site will come up and it'll tell you what's required to get one in your state. Every state is completely different. Um, yes, Sahil, you can do these remotely. Um, but I highly recommend you check that out. Like I said before, I think there might be 5 or so states that don't require a dealer's license. Your state may not require it. South Carolina, I think you can sell 3 houses, mobile homes, a year without having a dealer's license. After that, they require it. However, half of the benefit of the dealer's license is so that you can go directly to Clayton or go directly to these manufacturers and you can get houses at wholesale prices. So we can go buy houses for 60 cents on the dollar of what they would charge a retail person who just wants to put a house on their land to live in. So you can get them significantly cheaper, which really helps your profit margins. George, to answer your questions, can you do this with used mobile homes? You can. The issue is if it's an FHA loan, a mobile home cannot be moved more than one time for it to be FHA compliant. So what that means is if I have a piece of land and I'm buying a used mobile home from someone and I move it from their land to my land, FHA will not lend on that. So you're losing a lot of your buyer pool. That's why we do these with brand new houses. I wish you could do it easier with used homes because they're significantly cheaper, but I wouldn't run that risk because of FHA requirements. Um, Robert, if you want to open this link, here's one of the ones that we did to give you an idea of what these actually look like. So here's the pictures. This one was 1,600 square feet, I want to say, or 1,590. As you can see, it has drywall throughout the whole house. It doesn't have like panel boarding of what you see in a lot of older mobile homes. There's models that you can get the panel boarding. Those models are usually $20,000 cheaper. Uh, Typically, we like to do this model just because it looks super, super nice. And they sell really fast. When you're standing inside of this, I mean, you feel like you're in a stick-built home. It feels really solid. It's nice. It's got drywall everywhere. And it's a big size. This is 4 bedrooms. I think that on this deal, yeah, we sold it for 230. This was the one where someone came in 2 days and gave us all cash, which I didn't think existed anymore. So I think we netted out around 45 on that one. Here's another one we did. If you have a skinnier piece of land, you can do a front to back like that. Robert, go back. See how the porch is right here in the front? These are usually about 28 feet wide. So if you've got a skinny little lot, you can drop these on there and it's just as nice. You can see uh, drywall, same kind of level of finishes, just slightly different footprint. This one's smaller, 3 bedrooms and a little under 1,400 square feet. But this one sold really, really well. I think we made 40 on this. Usually the setup process
Yeah,
is the
I'll add.
same. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I was just going to add to this one. So in this particular case, we purchased this land from a wholesaler, and it was 5 lots. Actually, it was 2 parcels, and we ended up subdividing into 5 lots. This was the second one that we completed on this parcel. We have the third one going on currently, 403B Marion, and then we have 2 more lots that are coming up. But I think what's interesting about this actually is in the city limits of Gaffney, and it's not the most desirable area, let's say, but it's a good area. It's close to town. It's in the city limits, and there's lots of people that want to live there. So you can see the price is a little bit lower than what we sold the one in Piedmont for, which is a little closer to Greenville and a more desirable area. But we were still able to profit well here because we bought these lots for I think we ended up paying about $7,000 per lot by the time you divided up the 5 lot cost.
Absolutely. So that's what they look like. That's what I was saying. It's a really nice product at those price points. If you looked in your market at these price points, depending on where you are, you're not going to really find anything this nice. So that's why they sell super, super fast, and we always do pretty well on them. Brent, I'll turn it over to you to talk about some land.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, doesn't like you guys aren't skimping on the prices either. I've talked to some other guys in the community that are also doing this, and they're putting slow close cabinets. They're doing drywall just like you as well. We did drywall in ours because again, we didn't want those panels that
Yeah.
we always remember in the mobile homes. And we're also you're increasing the comps in the area. You know, the rising tide raises all ships. So as you do more of these in that area, you're actually driving up the prices. Now, that's not what we're trying to do with affordable housing, but we're all in business to make profit. If we don't make a profit, we go out of business. But it definitely helps the bottom line. And I just want to applaud you, man.
Brent, I love that you mentioned that, because the first house we sold for 185, the second house we sold for 195, the third house we're going to list for 199. So over time, you know, we would expect by the time we get to the fifth lot, we may be selling for 210, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we did the
Mhm.
same thing when we were flipping houses in a neighborhood because I can't tell you how many times we did this in Colorado Springs, but when we flipped a house, a lot of times not the first several, obviously, but a lot of times I was using my own comps, and it was amazing seeing my own comps come across the board when we were flipping houses. But going to the land, guys, I want to keep the land portion of this super simple. A lot of you guys are land sharks already, a lot of land experts on this call, but really it's the same concept, whether you're in your land sharks or if you're not. I'm going to talk to people that aren't in the land sharks, but basically we're finding a playground. How do you find this playground of just specific mobile homes? Success leaves clues. Look where other mobile homes are already selling. That's probably the easiest way. Second, where are mobile homes for sale already? And third, if you can't see that, then start looking in areas that allow mobile homes, whether it be on the assessor's website or literally what we call driving for dollars with the computer or land glide. Really, you could tell when you see a mobile home. They're like these super long, thin, rectangular looking devices. It's real easy to pick them out on Google Maps. It's that easy to pick your playground. Then you pull a list of these landowners, or maybe there's an existing single wide mobile home already on it, and you can rip that thing out and put a brand new one in its place. I just interviewed Brandon Richards on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast right before this call, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's kicking y'all's butt, Chris and Robert. You guys got to meet Brandon Richards. He's out in Flagstaff, Arizona. He goes, bro, I'm doing 6 figures on every one of mine.
Okay.
He's ripping out single wide mobile, and I'm just kidding. I know y'all have done. I know y'all are trying to stay relatable. I know y'all have done way more than $40,000 profit on some of these, but still, I mean, an extra $40,000 a quarter would change. Oh heck, an extra $40,000 for some people a year is life. I always like to say we're one land deal away. We're one land deal away from changing our lives. One land deal away from just being able to quit that job we absolutely hate, that we're selling our soul to to this employer. Really, I mean, guys, you do one of these a year. One of these a year, it's life changing. An additional $40,000 a year on top of what you're already doing is absolutely just phenomenal. So now we pull a list of landowners in that area. We use the land offer letter, the LOL, to send them an offer in the mail. Guys, if you don't already have access to the land offer letter, if you're a land shark, you better have access to it. But this is a blind offer. This is one of the best ways to buy land right now in the entire country. I teach this with the Land Sharks course and community, and I teach it because I absolutely believe in it. I use pay-per-click. I have cold callers. I do land offer letters. I send neutral letters. But the best, absolute best way I buy land deals is through that land offer letter. If anybody wants a copy of that land offer letter, go to thelandsharks.com/LOL as in land offer letter, or laugh out loud because you just got a smoking hot deal under contract. So you send a land offer letter to these people that own these lots that you could put mobile homes, and just like looking what Robert and Chris did, I love economy of scale. Maybe you can buy one parcel of land, maybe it's 4 acres, and you do a simple subdivide. Now you have 4 1-acre parcels to put your mobile homes on, and now you do them all at the same time and make even more, because now it's this, you're putting in 4 septic systems, four whatever. You see what I'm saying? The same crew is there putting the foundation down or the jack stands down to hold these manufactured homes. And then there's the motivated seller script. That's how we talk to these sellers. But here again, if we've got this strategy in our tool belt, this is we can now pay more than any other land investor out there. I used to say there's no competition in the land business, but here's the thing: when you have something good going on for so long, I think there's starting to be competition in this. I know I'm starting to see competition where I didn't see it before, because success leaves clues. It's too hard to see it. Every time I turn around, there's someone else teaching people how to do land deals, and a lot of land sharks are teaching people how to do land deals. I think that's incredible. But now it's time to shift. This is the absolute new opportunity. It's placing a mobile home, a manufactured home on these parcels to provide the affordable housing problem and make additional income on it. And then you finalize the purchase, guys. The land process of this doesn't have to be super complicated. One, we check the local zoning requirements. We talk to planning and zoning. We check I love it that you mentioned the deed restrictions. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. Just knowing that before you actually purchase that property, and get it under contract for 60 or 90 days while you're in the process of ordering the mobile home. You kind of get ahead of things with that long contract window. Go ahead. Underwriting it is.
All right. So here's the deal. Brent and Chris made this sound really easy, and they don't have the same amount of gray hair that I have, because this is actually really hard. It's a fun thing to do, but I take care of all the operational stuff on our side, and to be honest, it gets quite stressful. But I'm going to show you kind of what I do and all the details of what happens after we get a property under contract. But as Brent mentioned, as we're looking at properties and we're in the due diligence stage, we're going to get contractor estimates as we go here. I want to make sure while I have a property under contract that I have my contractors go out and they're going to tell me how much is it going to cost to grade, how much is the septic system going to cost. We're going to do a soil test, and I'll talk about all this in a little more detail. And I'm going to make sure that even if I'm only paying $20,000 for the lot, that I'm not going to be over leveraged on my other parts of my budget. We're going to look for comps for used mobile homes and stick-built houses. New mobile homes, sometimes in some markets, there's a lot of new mobile home comps. In our market right now, there's not a lot of new mobile home comps. So we're looking at used mobile homes. We're looking at stick-built houses to see what we can sell for. And then we partner with experienced realtors. We've got great realtor partners that we work with here in South Carolina. I'm sure you can look in your market and see what realtors are selling mobile homes in the market, and they could be great partners for you. But after we contract the land and some of the additional things that we do in terms of due diligence, we're going to check for zoning, check for utilities. And so when I talk about zoning, there's zoning, right? The kind of the county issued zoning, and then there's ordinances, or there's other neighborhood HOAs that we've got to be aware of. And we're going to go through that entire process. Some of it we can check as soon as we get it under contract. Some of it we've got to wait until the title work gets back. But as Chris mentioned, we've learned, because we put a mobile home where it's not allowed to go, and so we had to move it. So we've learned kind of through the process of is a mobile home allowed or not. Utilities are important. That's one thing, is a lot of us probably live in a house that has city sewer, has city water, but we can't take those for granted as we're looking for spots for mobile homes. And so we're checking, is the water available, or are we going to have to do a well? Are we able to do septic? And we don't ever take the seller's word for it unless they have on letterhead a document that says, hey, here's the permit from DHEC that says you can do the septic. we're going to go out and check that ourselves by hiring either a soil engineer, or we're going to have DHEC come out and do a septic test. Maybe there's sewer available. And I'll tell you, again, you go back to the cost and making sure that, things aren't going to be too expensive. We're going to check and see how much is that water tap going to cost? How much is that sewer tap going to cost? Because those can be very high. I'll give you an example. If we're doing one in the city of Greenville right now, that's on Greenville sewer, Greenville water. I think all in, by the time we tap it, we pay all the fees, everything, we're $25,000 in just to get water and sewer to the property, which obviously has a big impact on budget. It's not a deal killer. We're still doing that property because we can sell it for a higher price in Greenville, but we got to be careful that we're managing those costs appropriately.
I just want to chime in here. As far as water goes, typically we do not do anything with wells. It's hard to get a quote for a well because they don't know how far down they have to dig usually until they hit water. So the bill just keeps getting higher and higher until they find it. I've heard of some people spending anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 just for a well. Therefore, we don't mess with them. But I just wanted to add that.
Our well cost
Um,
$40,000. We did, and we knew it was going to be close to that, but we didn't know it was going to be 40. We got a estimate of 30 grand. So that's huge what you just said right there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So next would be encroachment issues. And a lot of this is we're buying vacant land. There's typically no access to that land that's already developed. And so we need to ensure that we're able to put a driveway on that piece of property. And what steps are we going to have to take in order to get that encroachment from either the county or from the Department of Transportation so that we can then access our property via a driveway? And that's a big deal for us. That takes a lot of time. And, but it's, again, it's not an issue we can't overcome, but it does take time. Contractor quotes I already talked about. We're going to get a quote from every contractor that we have. And one of the things that helps us to get a quote is we're going to make a site plan. This is something that we didn't do at the beginning when we started this. We would just say, hey, we got this lot. We're going to put a 32 by 48 home on this lot. And that's great. What I found is if I don't do a site plan, contractor's going to be calling me every day. Hey, where's this house go? Or, hey, where's the driveway go? Hey, where's the septic go? Where's the water line going to go? And what we found is we can hire somebody off of Upwork and we can get them to create a site plan. It's not to scale. It's not engineered, but it's enough so that I can go and send that to contractors. I can run it past the county and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And I can get their approval or their general blessing before going forward. Otherwise, if I don't make that, then potentially down the road, we may be, in a floodplain or whatever it may be. All right, moving on here. So now we've closed on the property. We're ready to go. And we are moving forward. We've got the property. We own it. What do we have to do now? Well, we got to order a house if we haven't already ordered it. Sometimes we order that house before we close. That gets us started. If we're confident on the lot, maybe that lot already has utilities. We've already, passed maybe the title work. We may go ahead and order that house. It's a fine line. It's a balance of when to do that. Early on, we ordered like 6 houses because we had 6 closings coming up. I had to cancel every one of those houses. And obviously there's a financial risk associated with that if you do that. And so we're real careful on how we manage that with the manufacturers. Number one, there's potential financial implications, but number two, our reputation. We don't want to be the guys that order 6 houses and then we cancel all those orders because those salespeople, they're depending on that commission. And obviously that we're tying up production. So after that, we're going to clear and grade the land before it arrives. This is, I would say this probably keeps me up most at night. I'm working on one right now, actually in Greenville. It was supposed to be cleared by end of day today. Contractor texted me and said, hey, I need you to come over here. We need to look and see how much fill dirt we're going to have. Well, we're supposed to do footers next week, Thursday, Friday, and it's going to rain Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's like, well, what are we going to do? Somebody's going to have to be working all weekend before it starts raining on Monday to get it ready so that we could do footers, and because the house is going to arrive a few days later. We're going to pull permits before it arrives. So, of course, there's a mobile home. If you're familiar with it, you might know this, maybe you don't, but it's a mobile home setup permit. That's going to give us permission to set up the house. That's a little tricky there because you got to have a VIN number to do that, and so we got to work with the counties on getting their permission to pull a permit. There's also, of course, the plumbing, electrical, mechanical permits that need to be pulled. We're going to pour the concrete footers. Like I said, we're setting these up FHA for FHA and conventional financing, and so every house has to have a concrete footer. So we need to get the footer diagram from the manufacturer, send that over to the footer guy, and he's going to pour those before the house arrives. It needs to cure for 3 or 4 days before the house arrives, and so we're going to make sure that gets done as quick as possible. House arrives, we're going to install that house, and we're going to the manufacturer will deliver it to the lot for us, and then we'll have our mobile home setup guy actually meet them at the lot and set up that house. The goal is that if it arrives today, in a perfect world, it's fully set up by tomorrow in terms of block and tied down. That doesn't always happen that way because mobile home setup guys are busy and their schedules are packed. And so we work closely with them and build good relationships with them to make sure that they prioritize us first. Once the house is there and blocked and tied down, you've got to do the trim out. So these are double wide mobile homes, which means it comes in 2 pieces. So it's two trucks that deliver it, 2 different pieces. Those pieces go together to create the house. And so there's a seam down the middle of the house that needs to be patched up and trimmed out inside the house. And so that takes, depending on the house, if it's a drywall house, that's going to take 4 to 5 days. If there's sheetrock that needs to be finished. If it's just a wallboard house, it's going to take 2 to 3 days to finish out the inside. We're going to connect utilities to the house, so power, water, sewer, or septic. There's an engineer that will come and he will stamp and he will confirm that these are FHA compliant. This is a letter that says, hey, I'm Joe Engineer. I've inspected this house and it applies to the FHA guidelines, which means basically it's on a permanent foundation. It's permanently attached to the land. There's a few other things that need to happen. We're going to build the decks, we install HVAC, we're going to install a driveway, mailbox, of course. There's a lot of details within these that we don't have time to go through today, but lots of things that are done. And in between this, we have typically each county is going to have 2 inspections. We're going to have an inspection once the house is blocked and tied down, and then we're going to have a final inspection once everything's done. And we have to have that final inspection in order to get power turned on at the house and to get our certificate of occupancy.
Hey, I just wanted to add for the finishing out the trim. A lot of people don't know this, and I didn't know it at first. When they deliver a new home, the trim inside the house has not been installed yet. Otherwise, it might break during transport. So it'll come with all the materials for the trim sitting inside the house, and you'll have to have someone go in there and basically install like the shoe molding and things like that. That's what he's referring to.
Appreciate that clarification, Chris. But so that covers up the details after closing. Our goal is that when the house delivers, the maximum time that we want to spend before listing the house is 2 months, and that's weather dependent. If weather is perfect and every contractor shows up when they say they're going to show up, you can do this in a month. Really, if you had a dedicated crew, you could do it in a week or 2. But that's really not realistic. But if everything went perfectly, you could do all this in about a month. When you throw a little bit of weather in and contractors maybe showing up days late, then it's usually a couple of months. It could stretch. Like if you went to the mobile home dealers lot and bought one directly from Clayton, they're going to tell you typically 3 to 4 months because they've got just so many of these going on, and it's going to take a little bit longer. All right, Brent, over to you.
Hey guys, and I see your hands up. I apologize. This has definitely went a little longer than we planned. I want to get through all this training. We will answer the questions if you can hang on with us. We want to get through as much of this as possible. So, guys, this is a lot. I know this has been an absolute probably fire hose for some of you. If there is an interest in this and you're like, oh my God, I got so many questions, imagine for a moment being able to take me, Robert, and Chris home with you for the next year. We are going to make it. Actually, is it okay if I make you guys an offer? Is it all right if I give you the sales pitch and make an offer? Is everyone cool with that? By show of hands, is it okay if I do that? Awesome, cool. I got a couple. I got a couple hands up. So we're gonna do kind of like a beta program of what we are doing with these land mobile packages and help you right in your own backyard to where you can do these as well. So basically, we're going to give you the ability to take us home with you for the next year. This is going to be a beta program. Again, we were only allowing 8 people to join us along with this. There will be an investment on your part. We're calling it a deposit. And here's the thing. If you don't get 10 times over this investment, then the steps weren't taken basically. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be laying out the steps in instruction format. Any of you that are familiar with the Land Sharks program, the Land Sharks course, you see how it's laid out instruction to get your result as quick as possible. We don't want you doing a mobile home package a year from now. We want you doing one in 30 days. To get you a return on investment as quick as possible. Thanks, Nathan. I love you, man. But we're going to break the steps down. Instruction. Do you have the value? Do you have the slide that's showing what we're going to be offering here? Okay. So basically, thank you. This is what you're going to be getting. And again, it's expensive, guys. I know you probably didn't plan on coming here and spending money today. If it's not something that's available to you right now, that's okay. There's opportunities come every day, right? We just want to be ready to go. We talk about who in here knows how to surf. Does anybody know how to surf? And like that's a hard thing to do. It's not something easy. But what's the first thing we do when we're surfing? We gotta what is it, David? Unmute there. What is it?
First, you need to learn. You need to push up first.
Push up, right? But before we push up, what else? What do we got to do before that?
Paddle.
What do we do before we paddle?
I don't know.
Find a way.
Point the board where we want to go.
I was raised.
We're looking where we want to go, and why do we paddle? It's because we want to get the momentum, right? We want to have the momentum. If we're not paddling, if we're not pointing, we're just sitting there and bobbing on our surfboard, right? Because the opportunity comes by, which is the wave, and it just bobs us up a little bit higher, and there's another wave coming right behind it. So we want to have the momentum to take action on these opportunities that we see in life, and this is an opportunity that I took a while back ago, and I'm taking more of them with my land deals because I've been getting beat out by some of you. You're paying higher than me for some of these land deals. So now I have to pivot and put a mobile home on these and hopefully make even more. But basically, we're showing you this opportunity. We want to get you the momentum to do it. But here's what we're offering: the step-by-step instruction of how to profit right now with mobile homes. And then also hand-holding you for 12 months. Guys, this is limited to 12 months. You'll have access. If you don't already have access to the Land Sharks, you'll also get that included, which is the next one or a couple ones down. But it's just like the Land Sharks. You're going to have access to the training materials forever because those don't go away. Sometimes it takes longer for some of us to get results. And we can't guarantee the results, obviously, but one thing that we can guarantee is if you're not getting results quickly, we need to be getting check-ins like on a weekly basis to make sure you're hitting the income producing activities. We're also going to share with you access to funding. We'll fund these land mobile home lots. Now, we can't fund all of them. We're going to fund the ones that make sense, the ones that are going to be wildly profitable, because put yourself in my shoes or Chris's shoes or Robert's shoes. We're not going to fund a deal that's subpar that we're not going to make a ton of cash on because we can just fund our own deal that we're going to make 100% on. So we want you doing good deals only. I've seen so many investors get stopped in their tracks by doing subpar deals and working super crazy and not making a single dollar on their deals. I'm trying to move everyone's faces so I can see the screen here. I apologize. All right, here we go. Lifetime access to the Land Sharks method. If you don't already have it, that's going to be an add-on. Plug and play marketing programs. This is plugging you into, how to market for these land deals, how to talk to the right manufacturer, and how to find the mobile home specialist real estate agents, because you don't want to just deal with Uncle Henry here when you're selling these mobile home packages. You want to deal with the right mobile home seller, the right realtor that's going to market it, the realtor that understands these FHA compliances, that's going to probably have a buyer's list already for your mobile homes. That's how these guys are selling their mobile homes so fast. It's not by accident. You can't just put one of these on a piece of land and think it's going to all work out so well. I tried to do that. I tried to do that on a couple, and I had to learn the hard way. And these guys talked about way more learning cases, and we call those seminars. We have to pay to play sometimes. Access to the operational tools. This is tools we're using to get this done. Community access. If you see what's going on in the Land Sharks community, that's extremely powerful. There's funders in there. There's buyers in there. And then you're seeing the wins of other people doing these deals, and it gives you the proof in your mind. The biggest sell we got to make every day is between our two ears. We got to sell ourselves to get the heck out of bed and take another chance. Get yourself back up on that surfboard. So, and then we're going to do weekly and monthly calls. Guys, this is a huge value. I promise you we won't be charging $96,000 like it shows as far as the total value on the slide. We're running over. I want to make sure we have some time for some Q&A. This is going to be expensive. If you want to talk about it, if you want to talk about what the opportunity is going to entail, see if it works for you, go to thelandsharks.com, and yes, sharks is plural, and fill out the application. It's a super easy application. If you know your name, your phone number, and your email, you're going to fill out this application, and me, Chris, or Robert are going to call and kind of see what you're looking to do. I promise you we cannot work with everyone. It's 8 people only. And really, I'm a results coach. I go for probabilities. I want to, basically there's certain things that I see of people that have done very well in land that they're going to do very well in this. So we can't work with everyone. Our time is limited. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. But we're putting a price tag on this to kind of push away the people that aren't serious about it. We want you to take the action steps. This is not easy. There is some work involved, and you're going to be paid very well if you're willing to take the action steps. So go to thelandsharks.com, schedule a call. Me and Chris and Robert, one of us will get to you as soon as possible. David, thanks so much, man, for just Sahil. I love it, man. Sahil, man, you are oh my goodness, I just want to just share a win here. This guy told me about profit, like $250,000 profits on land deals. Imagine if you took one of those parcels of land and like put 10 mobile homes on it, how much more profitable you'd be on that. But David, thanks for being patient with your hand raised. Did you have a question? Oh, you're muted there, my man.
Yeah, I'll reach out. I guess my big question is the big two things that come to mind. Seems like you guys are both on the ground there in South Carolina, right? So are you guys doing any out of area?
We have
Right now,
not.
we're only doing it in South Carolina.
Okay.
That being said, we have investigated doing in other markets where, like I think Brent mentioned, instead of making 40, 50K, we can make 100K. And so that's something that we're looking at for 2025.
I guess the driver of my question is more just in regards to my lifestyle. I live in several different states at any given time, so I don't have boots on the ground, but that's something else. And then I've done a few of these over the last 10, 15, but they have not generated extreme profits, but it definitely seems like you guys have cracked the code. What on average are you but I wasn't a dealer. So what on average have you seen that really saves you in?
Dude, it's a game changer.
Okay.
Hopefully there's no Clayton dealers on the call here, but it's probably, in my estimates, from when I've compared quotes, it's anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 difference on,
That
and
makes
this
sense.
is on the economy models.
Okay.
So I can only imagine, like, you go from buying the $80,000 mobile home and you want to do something nicer and you buy the $100,000 mobile home instead, it's probably even a larger gap.
Okay. That, yeah, I was trying to figure that because the times that I've done it have only added like 10, 15, I think max 20 to it. So if you guys are getting that kind of discount, that's the play.
Well, and I think too is like, and we can have a separate call and talk about it in more detail, but from what I've seen, it's a lot of like the car dealership model where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm gonna mark it up $2,500 off the dealer's invoice. Well, I mean, is that really the price? You know what I mean? Or is it
Right.
not? Right. And on top of that, then is the markup on all the development costs too. The grading, the septic, and it just adds up, right?
Yeah, because I share something similar with you with the affordable housing and the veteran housing part driving my business. So a big part of that was to be able to make it financeable. So again, I know that we're over time. We'll be talking. Thanks,
What's up,
Brent.
Cool.
Martin? Yeah, thanks for jumping on with us, David. Great questions, man. What's going on, Martin? You don't have to share
Um,
when.
No, I mean, so I got a 40-acre tract and a 50-acre tract that are both unrestricted. And so we've been kind of running through all different types of models of a simple land subdivide. And so we've done like really, really well with our best flips have been mobile homes, but existing mobile homes where we've done, 70 and 80K pops on them. And so we've been just in planning meetings saying like, hey, is this a structure that we can scale? Because obviously finding those basically mobile homes at land value is not, I don't think, necessarily a scalable model in our particular market, but this does seem like something ready to go to scale. And so my question is really, um, so I got my foot on the gas. I'm ready to go in terms of going to the mobile home dealer. We went and got some pricing from them. Is it worth going through the hoops and delaying maybe doing that project to get a dealer's license and then to learn this process that way? Or would it be best off to maybe try one with a dealer just to kind of get a feel for what it is? Because I got probably 5 lots that I could put mobile homes on right now. And so I just kind of wanted your
I
thoughts.
would, I mean, Martin, what I would tell you is it depends on the state, right? What state are you in, or what state are your lots in?
Oklahoma, the central Oklahoma City area.
Oklahoma. Yeah, I would say number one, check and see what the requirements are for the dealer's license. Because like Chris mentioned, like in South Carolina, it'd take you 3 months to get a license. But in Georgia, you could get a license tomorrow if you wanted. Well, not tomorrow because it's Saturday, but Monday if you wanted, right? And so I think check with what the Oklahoma requirements are, and it may be a quick process. And then yes, it would be worth it at that point.
Yeah, no, they want like physical location, a building attached to the ground. I mean, it's a process in terms of just looking at the requirements. So would I be able to get something in Georgia and be able to ship it to Oklahoma or
Very state by
No,
state.
yeah, unfortunately, the manufacturers are very strict on if you're going to ship it to Georgia, you got to give them your Georgia license.
Okay. So anyway, that was my anyway, I'm
Yeah, I would
Brent,
say, listen, I would say it's worth it. Question is, do you go ahead and do one? I mean, I don't know that it's a terrible idea because if you went ahead and did one now, you could go ahead and set a nice comp. You may not profit largely as large as you could if you could do it direct, but I think there are some things that you could control. Like, for example, if we work together, maybe you couldn't buy the house direct, but you could do everything else direct and save costs that way, right? And learn the process, set a nice comp, and then by the time you're ready to do the second or the third house, you've got your dealer's license and you're ready to roll.
okay.
I just
And
got
you may find somebody. The last thing I'll add is you may find somebody in Oklahoma that has their not like the Clayton dealer or like a street dealer, but through networking, you may be able to find a colleague or someone that has their dealer's license that's willing to to work with you, in some kind of arrangement.
I just got a private message here in the chat, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. But he's like, "Hey, I tried house flipping, and I basically went bankrupt, and I had to go back to a regular job. Um, you know, is this something that you would recommend me doing? Because I've always wanted to flip, but just didn't know how to get started back up again with it. And I just want to say my hat's off to you. Like house flipping is absolutely not easy. I know Robert and Chris both mentioned it, and I know there's quite a few house flippers on this call, me as well. When I was doing it, there was always a surprise. I was telling Brandon Richards earlier on a podcast, like I had an $8,900 water bill at the end. It's like, how do you have a water bill that high? How's that even possible? But the Metropolitan District would not let me transfer that house until I paid that water bill. Like little things like that don't pop up. Well, they could, but like you can control a lot more of this process if you want to flip things when you're I call it plug and play, basically, plugging a manufactured home in. So hope that answer gives you some clarity there. But yeah, flipping houses ain't easy. All right, Brenna came in late. Let's see what Brian said there. Brenna came in late. Can I get the recording? Yeah, I'll send it directly to you. We weren't going to send this recording out to anybody that wasn't on the call, but if you want a direct recording, I'll send it to you. And if just nudge me if I don't get it to you by the end of the day. But yeah, yes, Brian. All right, Seth Taylor, what's happening, man?
What's up, brother? Hey,
How are
super
you?
quick question. I'm doing great. I know you mentioned you did one in Colorado. Did you didn't have your dealer's license? You
No,
just
I missed
do
out
you
on
have to
that.
have one here, or you didn't?
I did a couple manufactured homes in Colorado, and I did not have the dealer's license. I didn't even know about the dealer's license. So I don't know if you actually need it in Colorado, and I don't know if you'll get the discount in Colorado. That's huge. That dealer's license is absolutely huge, and that's what Robert and Chris taught me here.
Okay, cool. Thanks, sir.
Seth,
Yeah.
Seth, are you in Colorado?
I am.
Where at in Colorado?
I'm right in Denver.
Okay. I've got a friend, current business partner, and not a real estate business, but another business. He lives in Denver, and I've tried to convince him over and over again, like, hey man, we've got to do some mobile home manufactured homes in the Denver metro. Because if you look, go to Zillow this afternoon and just look up manufactured homes that have sold, and do the whole region from like Colorado Springs all the way up to like Loveland or Fort Collins.
Okay.
And if you do that whole region and you see the price per square foot that they're selling for there, it's incredible. And at the end of the day, it just becomes a land game. And if you can get the land for the right price, then you can make $150,000 in the Denver metro area per deal, I think.
So
Now,
some of
I
the
haven't done
biggest
it.
ones
I
did
haven't.
were east of Colorado Springs. The manufactured homes were east of Colorado Springs. Did another one in the Black Forest. Every Colorado Springs east and north, they're wide open. Colorado Springs east for manufactured homes. That's mostly what's out there.
Yeah. And I haven't done a deal there. Brent has, but it's like I think it would be very lucrative there. And again, it comes back to, can you get the land for the right price, which I think through the land shark strategies you can. But I think there's a huge opportunity there, just because the cost of housing is so much more. But really, the cost of the manufactured home and the cost of the development work is not that much more, right? I mean, probably a little bit more than it is in South Carolina, but it's not double.
Okay, Robert. I mean, if your buddy doesn't want to do it, you got somebody who wants to do it right now, brother. Like, what do we need to do?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Is your information going to be somewhere I can reach out to you, or can you send me a direct message and we can connect?
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right, thanks, brother.
Brian, I
All
do
right.
not know anyone doing this in Kentucky.
What's that?
Brian was asking if we know anyone doing this in Kentucky. I do not.
No, we don't really. I don't really talk to too many people in Kentucky. I mean, Brian's about the only one I talk to in Kentucky. I kind of, steer clear of that. I did 6 months in Kentucky, right there in Fort Knox. I try and steer clear of that place.
I do know a guy up in Kentucky that kills it with mobile home parks, but not land home deals.
No, Justin, we have not done this in Florida.
So that's a good point about Florida, the storms. Now, I know the ones that I did in Colorado, I had to show the actual location it was going to be in for snow loads. It's the same thing in Florida. They build them differently for the regions they're in. Like you drive down to the Florida Keys. What do we know about the Florida Keys? They get smashed by hurricanes, smashed by them. Why do you see so many manufactured mobile homes in the Florida Keys? And the newer ones they're building on the piers are absolutely standing still. They're having to build them to endure these storms. What's up,
Yeah.
Nathan?
Oh,
Go ahead.
before we get to Nathan, it's called wind zones. And if you're on a coast, they might require what's called a wind zone 3, which is the strongest strongest mobile home, I guess, to help prevent against these storms. So depending on where you are, you might need to get a different wind zoned house. If you're on a coast in particular, you're most likely going to need a different wind zone. But go ahead, Nathan.
How you doing? So we're actually licensed here in Phoenix. We haven't done our first one, but I've looked at 6 and had 6 failed perks, so I'm doing well this last few months. But I am curious on your mobile home parks. Are you guys buying those like undeveloped and throwing them down? Because I actually looked at that. Um, if you
On
could sort of talk
existing
a little bit about
ones,
that.
we bought existing
Okay.
ones, and like I mentioned about my first one, if you were here for that, sometimes we'll buy them with empty lots, or sometimes they'll be partially filled. We never developed one from the ground up, a mobile home park, because oftentimes the infrastructure cost is so expensive these days
Oh yeah.
that your price per pad would be ridiculous. So it's
Hmm.
usually a lot cheaper to go buy an existing park, even if it's empty lots, as long as it has the infrastructure, the water lines, septic tanks, or sewer, all that stuff, you're much better off
Hmm.
going that route.
Okay. And I'm just curious. I'll talk to one of you guys later.
Nathan, listen,
Yes, sir.
Nathan. I'm telling you, man, Arizona. You said Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
I met a
Yes, sir.
guy. I met a guy 3 weeks ago that's doing it out there in Arizona, and he
Tell
told
me
me
his
he's like,
first
man,
name.
hold on,
What's his name?
you know, I gotta look. I gotta look up. Hold on.
Well, that's where Brandon Richards was just on the podcast. I just interviewed him on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. He's in Arizona and absolutely crushing these.
It's gonna
Oh,
take me
really?
a second to find it, but I'll
Oh,
send it to you.
okay.
But anyways, he's telling me he's like, man, I'm making like 150K per, and now he's
Yep.
paying a lot more for the
It's a
mobile homes
lot.
than we are.
Oh,
But I
really?
think
Hmm.
he's buying them direct from a dealer, and he's still making that kind of money, like from a
Oh,
dealer
that's
lot.
crazy.
Um,
Yeah.
and he's doing it like I'll have to look up the cities that he told me and tell you where those are. But it was like, I mean, it wasn't like in the middle of Phoenix, but it was like Scottsdale, Phoenix, kind of metro
Oh, really?
area.
Yeah.
Um, what was the
Pinell
name of this?
County.
Williams,
Past
Williams,
the.
Williams, Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Williams is
funny.
beautiful. It's hauled water out there too, so you don't have to worry about wells. Um,
Anyhow,
yeah,
like
Williams is a
he
great
told me
spot.
about this, and I actually thought about like, man, if I could just do like I don't know 3 or 4 of them a year in Arizona, that's all I need to do, you know.
That's what I'm trying to do, but nothing passes a perk up north. So
Engineered septic. Engineered septic.
it kills the deal though. At
Does
least
it?
up there. Yeah. It's like it ranges from 30 to 40K.
Yeah,
I've
that's what
gotten
we
so many
paid
quotes on it.
40K for a cabin on an engineered septic in Colorado, because it was all rock, all rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys, wonderful, wonderful training. Thanks, Robert and Chris, for putting this on. Thanks for everyone that came. I'm excited to chat with you guys that have put in for the application for a callback. There's still time to do that. How long are we holding this open? How long does this offer extend for, Robert and Chris?
Probably till Monday.
Okay. All right. So I'm excited to see this happen. Guys, Thanks for jumping on the call. If you've got any more questions, now's the last chance to answer or for us to answer them. And if not, have a wonderful weekend.